You ever just stop and think about one of the most basic fundamental questions out there? How does how does it keep going? How does it make more of itself? It's kind of wild when you think about it. So, yeah, let's dive right into that because this is at the absolute core of what it means to be alive.
So let me ask you a big question to kick things off. If you had to pick just one thing, what is life's single most important job? Is it to eat, to grow, to just survive? All good answers, but when you really boil it all down, all of those things are in service of one ultimate goal: reproduction.
And there it is, plain and simple. Reproduction is just the process that allows living things to make more of themselves, more of their own kind. It's the biological engine that makes sure life doesn't just stop with one generation. I mean, without it, every single species would just be a dead end.
So why is this so important? What's the big deal? Well, first off, it ensures continuity. It's how a species keeps the lights on, you know? It also creates this incredible genetic variety. Think of it like shuffling a deck of cards. For every new generation, you get new hands, new combinations, and some of those are going to be way better at handling whatever the world throws at them. And that, right there, is the engine of evolution itself, passing on those winning hands and shaping all life as we know it. Pretty amazing.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to look at life's fundamental drive to reproduce. Then we'll break down the two main strategies, asexual and sexual reproduction. After that, we'll see how it all works in the plant world, and finally, bring it all home to the human journey. So, to get started, you need to know that life basically has two major playbooks for creating the next generation. Two totally different strategies, but both are aimed at achieving that exact same goal.
And here are the differences, laid out side by side. On one hand, you've got asexual reproduction. That's one parent, no special reproductive cells, and the offspring is a perfect genetic clone of the parent. Then, on the other hand, you have sexual reproduction. This requires two parents, and they each produce special cells called gametes. When those gametes combine, they create a totally unique genetic mix, similar to the parents for sure, but never, ever identical.
Okay, let's dive into that first path, the world of asexual reproduction. This is the strategy of the lone parent, and it's all about making perfect copies and doing it fast.
One of the most straightforward methods is called binary fission. The process is so simple, it's beautiful. The parent cell just gets bigger, copies its DNA, and then splits right down the middle. And boom, you've got two identical daughter cells. It's reproduction at its most direct. Then there's another really cool method, budding. Here, a little outgrowth, or a bud, literally starts to grow on the parent's body. It develops and grows, and then eventually it just pops right off and goes on its way as a brand new, independent individual. It's like a tiny clone just branching off its parent.
Now, this next one sounds like something straight out of science fiction: regeneration. For an organism like a planaria, if you were to cut it into pieces, each one of those pieces can regrow into a complete new worm. It's an absolutely incredible survival trick that also happens to be a way to reproduce.
And finally, for organisms like fungi, it's all about spores. These special sacs burst open and release thousands of tiny, tough spores that can travel on the wind or in water. If just one of them lands in a decent spot with some food, it can sprout and grow into a new organism. It's a brilliant strategy for spreading far and wide. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about the other major strategy, sexual reproduction. This isn't about making perfect copies. No, this is about the power of two, about mixing up the genetic blueprint to create something brand new. The whole entire process really hinges on this one single event, the fusion of those special cells, the gametes, from two different parents. We call this fertilization. And its most important result, the whole point of it really, is variation. It's this genetic shuffling that gives a species the incredible adaptability it needs to survive in a changing world. So where do we get to see this powerful genetic mixing in action? Well, a fantastic place to start is right outside, in the plant kingdom. Let's uncover the secret mission of the flower. You know, a flower isn't just there to look pretty. It's an incredibly sophisticated piece of reproductive machinery. You've got the male parts, the stamen, which make the pollen, and you've got the female parts, the pistil, which holds the ovules, the future seeds. The whole thing is perfectly designed to bring those two gametes together. And the journey happens in 4 key steps. First up is pollination. That's when pollen gets from the male part to the female part, usually with a little help from a bee or the wind.
Then a tiny tube actually grows from the pollen grain down towards the ovary. Third, we have the main event, fertilization, where the gametes finally fuse. And lastly, that fertilized ovule becomes a seed, and the ovary surrounding it swells up and becomes a fruit.
All right, now let's bring this all a little closer to home. How do these same fundamental principles of sexual reproduction apply to us, to the human journey? For humans, the whole journey toward being able to reproduce really kicks into high gear with puberty. This is that critical transition phase, usually in our teens, when our bodies get a major biological upgrade, preparing and maturing the reproductive system to make new life possible.
And the changes that happen are pretty distinct. For boys, you start to see things like a deepening voice and broader shoulders. For girls, the pelvis widens and the menstrual cycle begins. But even though the paths are a bit different, all of these changes are signs that the internal reproductive systems are coming online.
And the end goal of all this maturation is pretty simple. The male reproductive system can now produce sperm, and the female system can now produce eggs. Once those systems are fully up and running, the biological potential for creating a new life is officially there. But, the story doesn't just stop with the biology. Understanding this process naturally leads to the super important topic of reproductive health. And that's not just about whether the system physically works. It's about a complete state of well-being, physical, emotional, and social. It's about having the freedom and the knowledge to make informed choices for your own life. And that includes understanding things like contraception to decide if and when you want to have children.
So we've seen that reproduction is the powerful engine that drives evolution, the force that has sculpted every living thing on this planet. But as our scientific understanding of this process gets deeper and deeper, from genetics to healthcare, the really big question for us becomes, how is all this knowledge going to shape our own future? What choices are we going to make? And that's a powerful thought to end on.